Released by Sega in 1993 on the Genesis, Phantasy Star IV: The End of the Millennium continues the events of the Phantasy Star franchise. Directed by Reiko Kodama, who would later produce Skies of Arcadia, and written by Akinori Nishiyama, the game would be greatly assisted in direction, writing, and art by Toru Yoshida. For story, the game takes place chronologically between the second and third games, though this would be the last main installment made for the series. For characters, the party changes roster along the story across 11 characters, though only 5 are ever fielded at once, and mainly features Chaz as the protagonist. For gameplay, the party explores an open world across 3 planets, with the assistance of a variety of vehicles where battles are random encounters. Battles are standard turn-based fairs, though players have the ability to form macros, which are preset commands for each character to execute in a turn, the result of which can result in combo attacks while easing micromanagement. The story only gets larger from here, so let's cut it down to size with a recapitation. The story begins by recapping the cliffhanger ending of Phantasy Star II, where in the Algo solar system, a peaceful system rife with civilization advancing the arts and sciences, was governed and maintained by a system-wide management AI called Mother Brain. However, after Mother Brain was taken down and the planets were no longer sustained by it, society everywhere crumbled, and one of the planets, Parma, blew up. As another 1,000 years pass and the Algo system has learned to live on its own, some of the old knowledge from the older times is being rediscovered. In the year 2284 AW, on the planet of Motavia, we now see Chaz, a rookie in the Hunters Guild, with his partner Elise, moving out to their next mission. The planet Parma is gone, and so life mostly exists on Motavia and Desolus, though dangerous monster populations have grown to such levels that professional hunters have become a necessity. As such, Elise accepts their next mission, which is monster extermination in the basement of the local academy. Elise finds the headmaster awfully suspicious when dodging questions about the monsters, and when they're about to enter the basement, a concerned academic named Han volunteers to go, as he too has questions. Deep within, they discover a monster breeding lab and a few of its subjects that have escaped. After clearing the area, Han is surprised to learn all this and wonders if there's a connection to this and the disappearance of his teacher that the headmaster also refuses to comment on. Exposing a headmaster, he reveals Han's teacher, Professor Holt, discovered the source of the recent outbreak of monsters to be from Birth Valley, where ruins of ancient civilizations are. They recovered the breeding tanks and began experimenting alongside revisiting the ruins, but Professor Holt never came back. He was going to send a rescue team, but a mysterious black magician named Zio appeared, threatening his life with petrification if he sent anyone else to Birth Valley. Han refuses to back down, and instead hires Chaz and Elise to accompany him to rescue Professor Holt. Along the way, they find a town where all of its residents are indeed turned to stone, but the professor is among them. Elise can't believe anyone knows how to cast such strong magic these days, but she says she's heard of a remedy, though of course is still mercenary about helping out. Looking for the remedy, Elise runs into an old wizard acquaintance named Rune, who is also after Zio and joins their journey. Rune shows off his powerful magic as well, allowing them to the village where they can find the petrification remedy. A local of the village named Grizz is offered to help them to the exact spot, and Rune takes his leave for his personal business, warning Chaz not to get hot-headed around Zio. With Grizz's help, they find the remedy, return to the petrified village, and restore everyone. When Professor Holt comes to, he seems unaware he was turned to stone, but it doesn't faze him, as he sends Han back to the academy to report what happened, and moves to continue on his investigation of the Birth Valley ruins. After killing some fresh monsters emerging from the ruins, they check in on the professor, and find within the ruins advanced technology and guardians that they've never seen before. When they meet the professor, they see he's already safe thanks to a non-human girl named Rika. Rika explains this facility is a bioplant from 1,000 years ago, and one of the many that barely function today, yet are responsible for maintaining the ecosystem for what little society there is on this planet. However, the system is beginning to break down, causing errors like the erratic weather outside and breeding new dangerous monsters. Elise says to shut down the system and thus the monsters, but Han points out this system is what's keeping them all alive. The rest of the group sides with Elise, and so Rika then reveals they can travel to the nervous center of the system and shut everything down there with the aid of a robot named Demi, whom is being held hostage by Zio. She also informs them of where Zio's castle is and offers to come along. As it turns out, Rika is an artificial life form the AI here named Seed made after thousands of years of genetic refinement of a prototype from before the Great Collapse. She's technically only about a year old, but is imparted with great knowledge of the ancient world, though is very curious about the current outside world. As the group accepts and leaves with Rika, Seed then begins a new protocol for itself, self-destructing after having given the world its final hope. As they gather strength and work the best information spots in town, they find a crashed ship from the planet Parma that exploded 1,000 years ago, and Rika explains in 1284 AW its artificial satellite Gyra crashed into the planet, reducing it into an asteroid belt. Some people were able to escape before the planet exploded, but this ship was damaged and got trapped in orbit around Motavia. The doomed passengers all died, but the computer was able to still operate to today. Though, this isn't the only Parmanian ship to escape, and many successfully landed on Motavia or Desolus, though a few dozen left the Algos system entirely. Traveling and reaching Zio's castle fort, they find there is a town outside where the citizens worship Zio and his vision of purging the world and building a utopia with only the chosen few. Breaking into Zio's fort, they find the captured Demi. Freeing her, she heals the party, but this was right as Zio now enters the scene. Grizz calls Zio out on the destruction of his home village, which Zio shrugs off. Zio declares his god demands the eradication of all life on Algo, and so Demi cannot be allowed to fix or shut off the nervous system. He calls out to his god, Dark Force, and the party is powerless to stop him. He fires a beam of dark energy at Chaz, and Elise shields him, taking the devastating blow and forcing the party to retreat for now. Back in town, no treatment seems to be helping Elise, and worse yet, Zio built his fort on top of Nervous, so they have to go through him to shut it down and stop the monsters. Elise urges them to find Rune, who may be able to use his magic to counter Zio's barrier blocking the way to Nervous. Grizz remembers Rune left with his village elder for a tower beyond the quicksand desert, and Demi says they can use an ancient vehicle called a Land Rover to cross safely to the tower. Leaving Han to tend to Elise, Chaz now leads the group to find Rune. As Demi shows them an underground bunker for the Land Rover, she explains Zio isn't directly causing the system to be defective. Rather, the command system Zaylin has been issuing abnormal commands. Zaylin is the orbital command center for the entire Algo system's environmental systems. With no way of reaching Zelin for now, they choose to focus on Zio instead. As they travel, a noticeable earthquake shakes them, and Demi notes this is also the work of another system, the Plate System, controlling the tectonic movement of Motavia, and is likely malfunctioning. Learning this, the group decides to head to the nearby control facility for it and turn it off, helping with the earthquakes, but the overall problem won't be solved until they deal with Nervous and Zelin, and by proxy, Zio. In the next town, they see it's dedicated to the heroine of the first millennium, Alice Landale, protagonist of the first game, and beyond is a tower where Rune is supposed to be. They quickly find Rune, who is here for the Psycho Wand, which can break Zio's barrier, and after they obtain the wand they return to Elise and find her condition has worsened. Unfortunately, the evil energy Zio used is more potent than Rune's ability to cure, and as she asks Rune to help Chaz, she sees off Chaz with some words of confidence and dies. That night, Chaz wonders how to move forward with his life, while Rune reminds him to think of how Elise lived, and Rika gives him some words of comfort as the two grow closer. The next day, Han announces his intention to return to the academy, as the rest of the group treks back to take on Zio and reach Nervous. With the Psycho Wand, they're able to neutralize Zio's barriers and personal defenses, allowing them to take him on even as he draws power from a strange and dark force. Together, the group of five overwhelm the Dark Magician, much to his surprise, and acting quickly, Demi connects herself directly to Nervous to shut it down. Physically merging with the machine, Demi halts all systems maintaining Motavia, which does stop the monsters, but now nothing will stop Motavia from becoming barren. The abnormal orders are coming from Zelin, and if those are fixed, the Motavian systems can go back to normal. Fortunately, she reveals a space shuttle that can get them to Zelin stored away in this facility. She explains up there they will meet Ren, a unit whose communication has been cut off for the last few months mysteriously, who can help them in her stead, as she will stay here and handle Nervous. Grizz also stays behind to check in on his little sister, leaving Chaz, Rika, and Rune to move ahead to the artificial satellite, Zelin. Inside, they meet the towering android Ren, supervisor of the facility, though he affirms Zelin is not the cause of Motavia's system malfunctions. Reason being, this facility is actually losing power and doesn't have any control, and instead its sister satellite, Quran, has gone rogue and causing the problems. Originally, Quran was a support system, but someone has entered it and stolen control from Zelin. He offers to join the group and help them investigate Quran, and Rika is glad to have him along, as Ren was one of her teachers while she was in Seed. As they move out, a stowaway agent of Dark Force attacks them, and amidst the battle, their ship is damaged, forcing them to crash land on Desolus, now an ice planet. Landing safely after colliding with a temple, their first contact with a Desolesian is with Raja, a comical and quirky priest, mad at their landing. Their ship is unrepairable, but Raja says there is another ship he knows of that can fly, and joins the party to show them the way. He mentions refugees from Parma landed here ages ago, and there is still a ship among the descendants here. As they travel, Raja notes the snowstorms are harder and longer than normal, and Ren conjectures that the climate control system of Desolus must also be awry. After following a lead, they find the hidden ship, named after the legendary heroine, the Landale. Finding it in pristine condition, they blast back into space to the Charon, landing safely on the satellite. Investigating within, Rune is shocked to see Dark Force melded into the facility. Chaz and Ren jump into fighting it while Rune advises caution, and as the group pours everything into destroying it, Rune is hesitant to celebrate their success. As Ren starts fixing Charon, Chaz wonders how Rune knew what Dark Force was at first glance, and Rune admits he's seen Dark Force before, though declines commenting more. Rika notices the snowstorms are still rampaging in Desolus, and Raja has an idea why. Ren reveals an ice digger transport, and along the way to Garuberg Tower, Raja suspects they encounter a tribe of talking muskcats. The chief of the village, who gets a familiar feeling from seeing Chaz, gives him a treasure and sees them off. They pass another village ruined and overcome by zombies, and another village of espers overcome by a strange illness. When Raja collapses suddenly, Rune and Rika note they sense the presence of the black energy wave, especially from the Garuberg Tower Raja warned them about. They now hear of a headstrong esper named Kira who has ventured into Garuberg Tower, and the group decides to go support her. Rescuing the esper from a crowd of killer trees, she thanks them all and introduces herself. She explains she has an idea of how to get past, and references how Lutz, a legendary wizard alongside the heroine Alice 2,000 years ago, is still alive in the Esper mansion in her village, and he would know a way. As they approach, the espers within recognize and make way for Rune, and within Lutz's room they see it's empty. Rune now steps forward and states Lutz left this world years ago, but only physically. He left his will and memory inside the telepathy ball to be transferred to his next incarnation, who happens to be Rune himself. He is actually the 5th generation Lutz, and he has been returning because Dark Force is a calamity that is resurrected every 1,000 years. While he's not sure Dark Force has been destroyed in Charon, he suspects the true root of evil has not yet been destroyed, and chooses to believe in Chaz as the hero who will be the one to emerge victorious. After fighting an enemy from Lutz's past who hints at a greater power, they storm Garuberg Tower, surprised to discover a second Dark Force within, also interfering with the entire Algo system. After teaming up and destroying this Dark Force, they see the stormy skies of Desolus clear up immediately. Glad to help resolve all this, Kira bids farewell to the group, though they see fire erupt into the sky from a nearby temple. Investigating, they find the entire temple gone, and the bishop within explaining that while the Dark Forces have been beaten, the Profound Darkness still exists. The Profound Darkness is the true root of evil, of which Dark Force is but a tool. The Dark Force on Desolus came to find out about Rikros, said to house ancient secrets, to which an arrow prism will show the way. Rune recalls Lutz had an arrow prism stowed in a temple on Motavia, and with the help of Demi they secure a water vessel to deliver them there. Along the way they discover Daughter, an abandoned prototype administrative AI like Seed that has sent androids to disrupt all other systems not under her control, including Ren when his communications were blacked out. Under the misunderstanding of establishing peace and order per her protocols, she again attacks Ren, and the group is forced to shut her down completely. Arriving at the island temple where the arrow prism is, they meet a man outside the temple who introduces himself as Seth, an archaeologist, and while Chaz allows him into their group, Rune senses something off. As they travel, Seth seems starstruck by Chaz, who enjoys the attention. Though, as they claim the prism and it reveals the way to Rikros, Seth suddenly transforms into a Dark Force, alarming them all that it can disguise itself as a human so well. Now hurrying to Rikros before the Minions of Darkness get there first, they find the beacon not only leads to space, but to a 4th planet in the Algo system that has somehow evaded all of their sensors, the planet Rikros. As they land, they're hailed telepathically by a person named LaRouf, who explains the 4th planet has an invisible barrier, and with its highly elliptical orbit, it only swings closely to other planets of the Algo system once every 1,000 years. He greets them as the Protectors, but demands they meet the Guardians of the Tower of Strength and Tower of Courage before he reveals the answers to their questions. Going out and rising to the combat challenges of each Guardian, who each impart rings of power, they return to LaRouf, who is ready to reveal the secret of Algo's creation. Billions of years ago, a spiritual being split into 2 halves that fought amongst themselves. Eventually there was a winner, the Great Light, who banished the loser, the Profound Darkness, to another dimension for fear of its resurgence. The seal itself being the Algo solar system with protectors on each planet. Once every 1,000 years, the seal would weaken drastically, and so the Great Light created Rikros, a planet serving as a warning system, meant to come around every 1,000 years, as well as LaRouf himself. Like a clock, its arrival would remind the Protectors of their mission, as at this time the seal is so weak the darkness is able to come to Algo in physical form as Dark Force. Each time, a hero has expelled Dark Force, bringing peace for another millennium. However, this time, when Parma was destroyed last millennium, thus part of the seal itself was destroyed, and the Profound Darkness now has a chance to break free completely. Chaz and group are the chosen protectors who must stop the darkness before it destroys the entire system, and to do that they must cross over into its dimension and destroy it there. With the rings of power they just gained, they can survive against the raw power of darkness, and so the task falls to them. Unexpectedly, Chaz throws back all of that, questioning why the Great Light doesn't do anything in all this, and why they have to fight for something that doesn't have anything to do with them, not to mention suddenly burdening them with all of this. He admits all this is over his head, but asserts he wants to live on his own terms, pointing out that being blind champions of the Great Light makes him no different from Zio, who still weighs on him since Elisa's death. Rune understands him and takes Chaz back to the Esper Mansion. There he shows him the sacred blade Alcidion, said to be able to defeat the Profound Darkness. As Chaz approaches the sword alone, he hears the voice of legendary hero Alice, who says the spirits of the past heroes who fought the darkness now reside in the sword. Heeding its command, Chaz claims the sword, and it floods him with memories of the past battles of the heroes who fought and defeated the darkness. Alice tells Chaz to believe in himself, as their spirit now goes with him, and bolstered by this, Chaz now sees hope, and emerges before his allies ready to fight for the future. Ren now gets a transmission that disasters are erupting all around Motavia, and moving out, they're surprised to be met by all their old allies, who are ready to finish the fight with them all. Demi explains that a massive hole has opened up in Motavia and is killing all lifeforms nearby, and Rune has no doubt this is the Black Energy Wave, more specifically, the Profound Darkness breaking through the other dimension. Clear that the final battle draws near, Chaz selects his final team to take into the Dark Dimension. Taking time to conquer his emotions and turn that into raw power, Chaz leads the team across the literal edge as the team observes the new shape of the Profound Darkness as a giant nightmarish maw of hatred and destruction. Standing firm against the rising forms of the root of the galactic perennial menace, Chaz, mercenary turned hero, strikes down the Profound Darkness. As the gap in space they're in begins to collapse, the Alcidion dissolves into a light that protects them all and warps them all to safety. As the Nine see the dawn of a new day, they're satisfied of their victory and begin to part ways. Ren and Demi intend to return as administrators to Zelen and deliver Raja and Kira back to Desolus, though Rika is hesitant. Ren understands her and says the life she chooses will be difficult, but as the hope for the future she must carry forward with pride and strength. Parting on their own, Grizz and Han both go back to their respective villages, bidding farewell to their companions. Rune now says he must continue Lutz's mission to watch over all of Algo, even though they defeated their greatest foe, and says goodbye, positive this will be the last they see of him. As the game ends, Ren swings back the ship, and Rika leaps overboard, falling into Chaz's arms, as they now understanding their feelings for each other, as the final chapter of this adventure comes to a close. Though no original sales data can be found, Phantasy Star 4 reprints inside other collections have enjoyed the success of selling over 3.5 million copies worldwide. This recapitation was chosen by Dave. Thank you so much for supporting the show as a patron, it's much appreciated. If you would like to support the show yourself, please follow the Patreon link in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next battlefield.